Greetings and salutations, good people. This is Marcus Brown with ChessFrog OmniVersity. Welcome back. Slightly distressing news today. We have lost another great one. Miss Nikki Giovanni, born June 7th, 1943, passed away December 9th, 2024. Nikki Giovanni is definitely one of our top 20 poets of the 20th century, and her work is going to outlast and immortalize her. Her work has been an inspiration to a number of people. Today, I'm just going to read Ego Tripping by Nikki Giovanni. Ego Tripping. There may be a reason why. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert with a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes. I crossed it in 2 hours. I am a gazelle so swift, you can't catch me. For a birthday present, when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built new ark and stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intone my loving name. All praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sowed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels delivered uranium. The fillings from my fingernails are semi precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach the east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned, and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal. I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky. Rest in peace, rest in blessings, Miss Nikki Giovanni. Thank you for all that you have done for us as an educator, as a poet, and as an immortal amongst us mere mortals. Today, what are we talking about? We're going to hop back on education again. There are churches now getting together to put together a curriculum for our children. Project 2025, one of the goals is to eliminate all DEI legislation. That means if legislation has the words diversity in it, equity, or inclusion, they mean to take a look at it, a hard look at it, and potentially eliminate it. These are the same people that fought against affirmative action, the same people that fought against a number of other things to equalize the world. And it seems like they have won or will be winning. But I look back on this because you have CRT involved in this, critical race theory. And what is that? They don't want Black history taught anymore, Asian history, Native American history. They want one sanitized version of history that does not offend or make white children ashamed of their parents or their ancestry. Because there was a lot of murder, rape, pillaging, and other things that went on developing this country. Manifest Destiny sounds an awful lot like genocide when you're on the other side. I propose, because the more I think about it, do we really want others teaching our children our history? A child's first and number one teacher is his mother and father, his family, or her family. That being the case, there are certain responsibilities that we have to face as African American people where we might want to teach this history ourselves, teach it from our point of view, teach it where we are sure that it's being taught correctly. Because I remember being taught when I was growing up, Malcolm X was a bad guy, Martin Luther King was a good guy. History has a way of changing slowly over time, and now Malcolm X is starting to get some of the props he deserves. Because without Malcolm, they might not have even talked to Martin. The perspective of history is something that changes from time to time and might change depending on if you're male or female, whether you're black or white, whether you're Native American, whether you're an immigrant, or whether you're native born. Your perspective on history and other things might be totally different depending on your perspective. That being said, I would suggest that maybe it is a good idea for our churches, our groups, NAACP, Rotary clubs, whatever other organization, sororities, fraternities, and other Black organizations start some type of campaign where we teach our own children and develop our own texts for teaching our own history. It might sound crazy and it might sound like a step too hard, but when you think about it, who would you rather have teaching history to your children? Someone who shares that history or someone who does not like the history? Because I've heard and seen things recently that kind of concern me. If you type in and ask for a picture of civil rights protests, I recently saw a civil rights protest picture that was generated by AI, and they had black cops holding the hoses and the dogs in this new AI generated picture of what the civil rights movement looked like. That we were the ones holding the dogs, and that they had white folks mixed in the crowd with the black folks protesting. So it looks like a totally different protest, and the whole story and dialogue changes once you start skirting those color lines about who held the dogs and who held the fire hoses. It's kind of a scary thing, the things that can be done and the way that history might be interpreted in the near future. I am a certified teacher and I went to school, Michigan State University, to get my certification. You can check on the Department of Education website and find out who's certified and who's not. I volunteer my services to anybody out there, and I recommend and hope that we can start some type of organization or group here in Flint that's willing to teach Black history or discuss Black history or have some type of Saturday school or some type of freedom school where kids can learn our history since it's going to be pulled out of the school under 2025. I'm very concerned about this, the changes that are coming to education. It might be time that we do like the Irish did and the Catholics did, and maybe it's time that we start our own schools. We used to have them back in the 40s and the 50s, and we used to have them before then, before integration. Odd story. My father, born in 1950, attended K through 8 in Detroit with white kids, born in 1950. I, born in 69, did not have that experience. White flight had taken place in most urban areas, Flint included, Detroit, Chicago, you name any major city, white flight took place. White folks moved out because they didn't want their kids going to school with little black kids. That's how the country felt. To this day, schools are still technically segregated. And I'm not talking about you going to a school and you see white and black kids. I'm talking about there are whole schools where there are no population that's different. You go into certain parts of Detroit, Chicago, and other major cities, and they are schools that are not diverse. You go out into the suburbs, you'll find schools that have a minute population of African American or Latino or quote unquote minority students. There has to be some type of change with education. I've been pushing for this change. That education needs to be individualized for every student. Special education should be for every student. Every student needs to be individualized as far as what they receive. Throwing a whole bunch of kids into a kindergarten class because of their age and saying that they all need to learn this reading level and all need to learn this mathematics level is not fair to the child. There are some children that come to kindergarten already ready to read, and there are some kids that come to kindergarten that don't know their ABCs. There needs to be differentiation in this education. I want to give big props out to Out of the Mud for allowing me this venue to speak. And I suggest and hope that other people will take advantage. Please hit us up on Facebook or chime in and call in at the number 810. Gotta find the number now. Oh, not 810. The number is 248-820-5053. Out of the Mud Incorporated, C Corp Media Company. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, well, TikTok's about to be gone, but TikTok's going to be replaced, and I reckon that we'll be there also. So, if you are interested in starting a school, you know how to reach me. If you are interested in Black children's education, let's get something going. Let's get a collective of people together so we can start Saturday schools that can educate our children about our history. Maybe we can throw a little bit of math and science in there, since our people helped develop a lot of the math and sciences. Whether you want to go back to ancient Egypt or if you want to start talking about what was taught by the Moors in Africa or the Moors in Spain, we're starting to talk about calculus. We're starting to talk about different sciences, medicine, etc. A lot of this history does not start with just Europe. A lot of history starts in Africa, starts in Asia, starts in other places. There's not one place that can has the wherewithal to say that they lay claim to most knowledge or the development of most knowledge. I was watching a program the other day. Uh, Smart black guy Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about how in the 1800s, a lot of white men got together and they decided to create an evolutionary chart that put white men at the top and put blacks and Asians close to the bottom and say that we were more ape-like. Come to find out, recent in the 90s, Europeans find out that their DNA is almost 3%, 1 to 3%. Check this for yourself. Always check for yourself. 1 to 3% of European DNA is Neanderthal. You go to African DNA, and guess what? 0% of it is Neanderthal. Now, suddenly in the 90s, they want to start talking about how creative and how special the Neanderthals are once they find out that they are more closely related to this primitive human subspecies than we are. They tried to place us as being the more primitive, and it turns out that it's Europeans that have this Neanderthal DNA. It is what it is. And African Americans, we can't shine too brightly because you know who we are mixed with. So a little percentage of that might be coming out in us also. Africans, zero Neanderthal. Europeans, 1 to 3%. African Americans, somebody needs to call 23andMe and find out the stats on that. Other than that, I really do want people in the Flint area and in other places in America to start considering teaching our own history to our own children. It doesn't make sense for us to cry or to complain that they're not going to teach CRT when we should be teaching it for our own selves and our own children. The most important voice that your child hears is that educational parental voice or that family voice. Teach your family history, link it in with the history of the city. Everybody knows in this generation when their family arrived in Flint or arrived in Detroit or arrived from the South. We still have that link where we know that our family either came from Macon, Georgia, or North Carolina, or came from parts of Tennessee. We need to be claiming that history, documenting it, writing it down, and we need to be teaching our own history from our own perspective. Why did your family move north? Did they move north for a job? or did they move north to escape the type of racism that existed down south? Were there opportunities here, or was it just a fluke that they moved here? There are a lot of different reasons why people move. The Great Migration that occurred between 1960, between World War One and World War Two, for African Americans, usually followed the railway lines. So if you lived in Chicago, you go due south, you're going to run into Arkansas and places like Tennessee. You live in Michigan, you go due south, you're going through Ohio and Tennessee again. And it's just basically the railroads ran north and south. That's what people caught in order to get north. If you're in New York, a lot of your people might come from Florida or North Carolina, South Carolina. Just follow those lines on the map. Let's see, longitude is the long one, latitude is the flat. Latitude is flat. So you follow those lines of longitude, and you have pretty much followed the lines in which railroad cars travel. All right. What else is going on in the world today? We have Hanukkah going on. We have what's the name of the Islamic holiday? Ramadan, and we also have Kwanzaa coming up. Kwanzaa is a 7 day celebration. It is not a religious celebration. It is a social celebration, in which people in the African American community, prompted by Dr. Malana Karinga, choose to try and focus on different things to help improve our community. Unity, Kujichagulia, self-determination, Kuumba, creativity, bringing those aspects into our world, collective work, cooperative economics. These are all things we need to put inside of our community. When you start hearing statistics about Asians keeping money in their community for 28 days, Latinos being able to keep money in their community for 2 weeks, and then African Americans barely being able to hold on to money for a few hours, it's kind of a scary statistic. We got to do better with keeping money in our community and using those principles of Kwanzaa. That being said, I'm asking that I know Kwanzaa is kind of an elaborate holiday. You got 7 days, and each day you got to light a candle and remember which day is this, which day is that. I suggest if you just starting out with it, you focus on one day. And maybe that's New Year's. Maybe it's the day after Christmas. Whatever day works best for you and your family, and you focus on a goal for the year. Might be trying to lose weight, might be trying to change your diet, might be trying to save money. I know personally, this is my 8th day without a cigarette. And yes, I'm having a nicotine fit, or I have been having nicotine fits, but I'm getting through it. And I'm hoping to use that sort of improvement to urge others to try and improve. If there's something that you want to change, whether it's your weight, smoking, the way you eat, or whatever, let's go for it. There's nothing that can change except for what you want to change. All right, seasoned gives. A dollar circulates 28 days in the Asian community, 19 days in the Jewish community, 17 days in the white community, 6 hours in the black community. Pretty much like I said, that's how long money stays in our community. In other words, we get our paycheck and we go straight off, and we might pay off our Verizon bill. We might pay the heat landlord, this, that, and other thing, pay for all this, and then the money's gone. We need to start creating our own banks again. We need to start creating our own savings again. When people work for me, I try and make sure they get a savings account. Even if I pay them in cash, I try and get them to try and start a savings account so that they can have money. Sometimes I hire people to work on the farm and they're getting paid cash that day, but because they are considered their own contractor and their own employees, so they take care of everything for themselves. But it would be nice if you made a plan to say, I'm going to start a savings account. And even if it's not for yourself, start your children a savings account. There are programs out there that will help you do that. And there are also programs that will help you learn how to invest. I have a Robinhood account, and I have a Robinhood account set up for my grandson, whereupon he can make investments in stuff that he likes. If he likes Sony PlayStation, he can buy some Sony PlayStation stock. They're penny stocks, it's not a full stock, but it still shows an investment and shows patterns of things that work. I like Dollar Tree a lot. I like Five Below a lot. There are stores I like. There are stores like, oh, this store is slipping with the way they're treating their employees. So I look at a store, whether it be Aldi's or Best Buy or Walmart, and I see how the employees are treated. I'm seeing, will this last? Will this model of having customers wait in line for 20 years be something that's going to be positive to the end or negative to the end? You start thinking about the stuff that you use in your real world. You can buy stock in Kool-Aid if you wanted to. But if it's something that you know is going to be around and going to last, then you buy stock in it. If you believe in Toyota over Ford or Ford over Toyota, you invest in it. If there's clothing that you like, you invest in it. My brother invested in Under Armour back when Under Armour was dirt cheap. But then Under Armour did something that offended him, and he took his money out of Under Armour and invested it somewhere. Sometimes you have a voice when you are able to invest money. Collectively, we don't have that voice right now. Collectively, we should get that voice. If a company offends us or says something derogatory about black folks, then all black folks just yank all our money from it. Oh, Nike, you really feel that way about us? Let's yank our money from them, give it to Adidas. Oh, Adidas, you don't want to support this and you say this, that, and the other thing about us? Let's yank our money from Adidas and give it to some other company that's willing to support us. Black folks are very loyal when it comes to brands. If you look up the history of Cadillac cars, Cadillacs did not become famous until after African Americans started buying them and started becoming loyal customers of Cadillac. That's what put them on top. They were a company that was about to go broke. They actually didn't want black people buying their cars because they thought it brought down the image of the car. When they found out that blacks were the only ones supporting them, they changed their image around and made Cadillac into something that was considered a high quality or designer brand, an elite brand. If you have that loyalty, if a community has that loyalty, then that company should have the loyalty back towards us. With that said, I urge people to start thinking about plans for the new year. It's going to be a rough and hard season coming with changes in administration and changes in laws that are coming. These changes in laws are going to make your head spin. I urge you now to start making plans. Don't wait until you get hit upside the head with a billy club to say, hey, we need to do something about this. Do something now before these laws go into effect. That's going to change the way your children learn. That's going to change the way that we earn, the way that we live our lives. And it seems like, that's just something minor. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me. I'm telling you, we need to be looking at this right now and have focus on how to address these problems that are going to be coming our way. I've already suggested that we put together some type of educational program in every community. Every city should be organizing and rallying. Hey, this is our Saturday Freedom School. This is our organization where we're going to provide critical race theory to our children the way we want to. I urge women to teach women's history. I urge Native Americans to teach Native American history. Jews don't have a problem with it. They teach their own history to their own people through their culture. We should be doing the same thing. We should not be relying on schools. Yes, there are some great black teachers there and some great teachers inside the schools, but we should not be totally relying on them to do something that is our responsibility. As a black man, it's my job to teach my children what a black man is by my behavior and by leading by example. As a black man, it is my job to help raise my black children with a self esteem and an appreciation for their own self and their own culture. I'm not talking about creating black Santa Clauses or creating mythological characters. I'm talking about just telling the truth. We have done some amazing and phenomenal things in this country, from inventions to technology. We are not just athletes, we are not just entertainers. We have done a lot for the sciences and a lot for other industries. We need to start telling that to our children and not just focus on the famous, the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's. We need to focus on those hidden figures in our history. People that have helped out with the sciences, people that have helped out with medicine, people that don't get the credit that they deserve. In the next few weeks, we're talking about gifts here. We're talking about that season when it comes to buying. I urge you, if you can, to buy from your own community, if possible. If you know an old lady that does quilts or does sewing, see if you can buy something that's made by her. Put her on the spot. If you know somebody that does bean pies or somebody that cleans chitlins or whatever, try and put some money inside of another black person's pocket this season, whether it be through real effort or work or through gifting. If we need to start buying books, we need to start buying books that talk about us in a positive light. We need to start supporting writers like Nikki Giovanni and Maya Angelou and start making sure our children are familiar with their works. We need to start making sure that if there are black toys out there, I remember there when I was first became a parent, there was a series of toys out there called OMEC, and these toys were black action figures because most action figures back in the '90s, they were kind of bland and white. You only had for the X-Men, you had Bishop, but he had straight hair. Yeah, Bishop with the perm and the scar on his face, and then all the other ones were like Power Rangers or just white toys, like Thor or the Hulk or whatever. So it's important that our children play with toys that they can appreciate and that they can see heroes in. Uh, I believe the study was called the Kinsey study back in the '50s, where little black girls were asked to select between a white doll and a black doll, and our children overwhelmingly selected the white doll and said that the black doll was ugly or bad or mean, and said that the white doll was nice and kind and pretty. There is psychological indoctrination going on, not just through education, but also through television. Every time we look at a magazine, every time we read a news article, every time we see something on television, that impacts us. That impacts our children. If all the heroes they see on television are white, if they only see the Dukes of Hazzards as the heroes, if they only see Wonder Woman as a hero, and they never see themselves as hero, they only see themselves depicted in certain ways. This is kind of what Bill Cosby was talking about when he started the Cosby Show. He was tired of seeing blacks being depicted as pimps and hoes and this, that, and other thing. He wanted to show a real family dealing with real problems. Now, a lawyer for a mama and a doctor for a daddy, that's not the atypical African American experience, but it is an experience. And it is a part of our community that does exist. We need to have more realistic portrayals of our community. Because if we trust Passenger 57 and only what we see on television and news to describe us, there are communities out there who have never met a real live black person, and the only way they know black people is through sports, television, magazines, and news. The only thing you see on the news is Passenger 57, or you see Boys in the Hood, or you hear rap music, whatnot. It gives a distorted image of the beautiful people that we really are. People that created civilization, people that built pyramids, people that started universities, people that helped save. These are the people that I'm talking about. On that note, again, I want to thank Out of the Mud Productions. I want to thank the family of Miss Nikki Giovanni and offer my condolences to her. And I want to leave out on a positive note with some information about Kwanzaa and the upcoming holiday. I want to make sure I got this right. I've celebrated Kwanzaa for a number of years, but I want people to start getting in their mind all the meanings behind Kwanzaa. You have 7 days of Kwanzaa, which is supposed to start on the 26th. Umoja, which means unity, is supposed to be a day that's meant to express and share the need for unity in our community. We can do unity or share unity by having a meal with somebody, by having a meal with our family, by having family reunions, by discussing our history, by getting together in order to create a schooling opportunity for our children. Kujichagulia, self-determination. This is something that we all need. If you want to set a goal for yourself, to stop smoking, to lose weight, you need this self-determination. And it doesn't have to be a major thing. Start with something small. We always want to try and attack something large. It's about small changes. People go on a diet thinking they can go off the diet. In reality, if you want to make a change, you have to make that change and make that a part of your life. When I wanted to start losing weight, I started swimming. Didn't lose any weight, just built muscle, but I'm finally starting to lose weight now. I've lost 20 pounds since Thanksgiving. I've quit smoking. So you can tell that I might not be the most pleasant person at times, but I'm trying to find the humor in it and trying to find a way out of the situation that I created with my weight and with my addiction to smoking. One day at a time, one step at a time. So far, 8 days down without a cigarette. Let's go for 9. Let's go for 10. Take it day by day and make it a permanent change. Ujima. Ujima means collective work and responsibility. There have been times when in my neighborhood in Lansing, where we've gotten together and cleaned up the neighborhood or gotten together and planted a garden in a blighted field. I've tried to make attempts at doing similar things here, but putting a farm or a garden on land bank property in this town is not smiled upon, to say the least. But there are other projects, whether it be cleaning up the neighborhood, starting a neighborhood organization, going out and shoveling elderly snow that can bring us together for collective work and responsibility, where we take responsibility for something, whether it be a park that we keep clean or our own street. Ujamaa, cooperative economics. This is where things get sticky. You start talking to somebody about investing money, and short of people giving tithes at church, there is no cooperative economics going on. When you get a buddy and you decide to start a business together, or you start trying to support black businesses out there, that is what Ujama is. If you know there's a black hair care salon and you go to her, that's great. If there's a black store that sells food or sells this, that, and other thing, or a black business out there, we need to support them. That is part of being cooperative with our economics. Oh, they got the Nguzu Saba right there up on the screen right now. Uh, After Ujama, we have Nia, which means purpose. Our purposes might be different. My purpose, now that my children are older, is no longer to be the breadwinner inside of a family and to guide my children to a certain thing. I still have those responsibilities, but now that my children have left the house, my focus has been on making sure that my wife is happy, making sure that I'm happy and comfortable, and that we're getting healthy, and that we have investment and plans for the future. My plan also, or my goal also, or my purpose also is to try and make sure my children are developing plans and leading their families in a certain way. You don't just say, I raised my kids and I'm done with that. It's something that continues. If you do it right early, you don't have to do it over and over again. If you do it wrong, you might have to repeat step 2 or 3. It's very important that we start instilling these principles, especially in today's climate of unity, of cooperative work and collective work, because a lot of services are about to end. A lot of things that were taken for granted, and I'm not sure what impact it's going to have on FIA or food stamps or other services like Social Security or whatever, but there's definitely going to be an impact on a lot of different people coming soon economically. And I don't. Some people might remember when Engler first got into office, he revamped the whole welfare system and required people to go to work. I don't think that was a bad idea. It was rather abrupt the way he did it and kind of cruel the way he did it. But people working for their own money, I think that's a good idea. I know some people can consider that kind of conservative, and it gets into that gray area. But just like our own education, we might get mad that they're getting rid of CRT and that white folks say, well, we don't want our children learning this. We might get mad about it, but whose responsibility is it in the end? On that note, I want to thank you guys for listening. Hopefully next week we'll have some special guests, or we might have a special episode this week. Uh, Thank you again. See you guys same bat time, same bat channel next week. Peace. ChessFrog OmniVersity out.